Whenever we venture into the sea, there's an undeniable sense of mystery beneath the surface, and the deeper you go, the more you start to question what might be lurking below. The ocean isn't our natural habitat, and it's filled with hidden dangers, from a scuba diver narrowly escaping a shark attack to a rubber dinghy nearly destroyed by a powerful predator. Here are 15 of the most incredible close calls ever experienced in the sea. Number 15. Crocodile. Manuel Carrera happened to be standing on a bridge which passes over a remote body of water in Stingray Biosphere Reserve in Mexico. Down below him are perfect waters, being enjoyed by what seems to be a teenage boy out for a swim. However, what the boy doesn't know is that he's sharing the water with a huge crocodile. The people on the bridge panic and shout to the boy to get out of the water, and he begins to swim desperately back to shore. But all the while, the curious croc is closing in, only going at a cruise speed to begin with, but likely calculating all the time how and when to launch a full-on strike. The tension is almost unbearable, as the boy paddles desperately to shore. Before finally, someone on the bridge, apparently the Mexican Tom Brady, throws what looks like a drinks cooler into the water right ahead of the croc, which gives the big reptile a fright and causes him to turn back, likely saving the boy from one seriously dangerous encounter. Carrera, who took the video, shared it in the hope that tourists would learn to refrain from feeding the wildlife and so encouraging crocodiles to become more curious about humans. He didn't say whether he meant that the tourists should refrain from feeding themselves to the wildlife. Number 14. Reef Stonefish. The reef stonefish is a seriously badass fish. This is the number 1, top of the pile, undisputed most venomous fish in the world, and its venom can easily kill a human being. What makes them even more difficult is that they are ambush predators with outstanding camouflage abilities, able to disguise themselves against the reef floor, waiting for an opportunity before striking at incredible speed. Some reef stonefish have been recorded making strikes against the crustaceans, shrimp, and small fish which make up its diet in just 0.015 of a second. So when a diver like the one here heads into their territory, they must be on full alert because stepping on one of these guys is a very bad idea. Almost as bad an idea as going right up close to it and shining a light in its face, seeing if you can get it to move as our diver does, causing it to shuffle along the seabed. But in one quick movement, this stonefish could have left this diver in a state where not just moving becomes a thing of the past, but also breathing. Did he know what he was playing with here? If so, he's either super brave or super stupid. Number 13. Shark attacks diver. Out in the Cayman Islands, this scuba diver was doing some work helping out the natural environment. His job was to spear lionfish, which are an invasive species and who, without the normal balance of their native ecosystem, are responsible for serious destruction in the delicate waters of the Western Caribbean. It's no easy task dealing with these fish, and it takes a lot of skill as those spines on the back of the lionfish are venomous and touching one would be seriously painful. The water is dim and full of shadows, making it hard to see what's lurking just out of sight. As the diver focuses on his task, he's constantly glancing over his shoulder, knowing that sharks in the area have learned to associate divers with an easy meal. The tension spikes when a large reef shark suddenly appears, circling closer and closer, its movements quick and unpredictable. The diver's heart pounds as he tries to keep the lionfish net between himself and the shark, but the animal seems determined to get a taste of something more substantial. For a few nerve-wracking moments, the shark bumps the diver's fins and even snaps at the net, showing just how bold these predators can be. The diver's training kicks in, and he uses his spear to gently push the shark away, never turning his back or making any sudden moves. Every second feels like an eternity as he waits for the shark to lose interest. 70 feet below the surface, the diver heads into the rocks and takes a hold of a lionfish, which he pulls into his collection net. But as he does so, he clearly feels some pain as we can hear him make a grunt. Turning round, we can see he is facing a shark which is attacking him, possibly trying to get to the lionfish, which sharks will eat once they are dead, and so they know the divers are a source of food. Only the shark seems to be more in the mood to eat the diver himself. Using all his skill, nerve, and calm, the diver then must fight off the shark with only his fishing spear. There is of course no hope outswimming the shark, so he must fend it off and then keep it where he can see it, until finally the shark gives up. What an adrenaline rush, and we can be glad both diver and shark escaped with their lives. Number 12. Sea snake. Diver and nature photographer Jonathan Bird is famous for his show Blue World, in which he explores the ocean and its various creatures, and he seems to have almost no fear whatsoever. Approaching these sea snakes, which are some of the most venomous snakes in the world, the venom they carry is more powerful even than their most venomous cousin on the land. But Jonathan knows a thing or two about sea snakes, and he's brave enough to go right over and pick one up. The water is crystal clear, and you can see the snakes weaving gracefully through the coral, their bodies glinting in the sunlight. Jonathan moves slowly and deliberately, careful not to startle the snakes, and you can tell he has a deep respect for their power. At one point, a A curious snake wraps itself around his arm, flicking its tongue as if trying to figure out what kind of strange creature he is. The camera crew holds their breath, but Jonathan stays calm, gently guiding the snake away from his face. He takes a moment to point out the snake's tiny fangs, which are tucked away at the back of its mouth, making bites on humans even less likely. The whole encounter feels surreal, like a dance between two very different worlds, one of curiosity, the other of caution. The snakes seem almost playful, gliding through the water with an effortless confidence. The snakes are pretty calm animals and don't seem to be too bothered about being manhandled, so he's able to take hold of them and even show us the specialized flat tail which helps them to swim. Furthermore, he's no doubt aware that even if it did bite, injection of the venom is in fact extremely rare, and there have only been 2 sea snake fatalities since 1935. So these insanely overpowered serpents have the relaxed nature of a creature that knows it could completely destroy you, but is chill enough about it to not need to show it off at every opportunity. Even so, Jonathan Bird is pretty damn brave to go out and pick up an animal that could kill him in a couple of hours if it felt like it. Number 11. Shark attacks surfer. Back in July 2015, Australian surfer Mick Fanning was out in South Africa competing in the J-Bay Open Surf Championship and was on top of his game, having made it into the finals. As he was waiting to start up, about 4 minutes after the start of the final, another competitor showed up and wanted to join in the fun. A great white shark. The crowd on the beach and the commentators watching live could hardly believe what they were seeing, their voices rising in panic as the shark's dorsal fin sliced through the water behind Fanning. The tension was unreal, with every second feeling like an eternity as the world watched, helpless, from the shore and on TV screens everywhere. Fanning's instincts kicked in, and he kicked and punched at the shark, desperate to keep it at bay. The water churned with foam as the shark thrashed, and for a moment, it looked like the worst was about to happen. Julian Wilson's decision to paddle toward the chaos was nothing short of heroic, risking his own safety to help his friend. The jet ski rescue team raced in, pulling both surfers out of the water just in time, while the crowd erupted in relief and disbelief. The footage of the attack went viral, and Fanning became an instant legend for his calm under pressure. As every surfer's nightmare began, Fanning screamed out and punched the shark in the back, trying to scare it away. And luckily, the teeth sank into the board rather than his flesh, but he said he was just waiting for the second bite. Heroically, his fellow finalist, Julian Wilson, swam toward both Fanning and the shark in an attempt to distract it, and after a breathless few seconds, jet skis were deployed and Fanning was pulled from the water in one piece. The brave surfer had no problem admitting he was seriously scared, and with good reason, this being one of the luckiest escapes ever caught on camera. Not that he let it stop him. A week later he was back in the water, doing what he loves. Now it's time for today's topic. On June 2, 2025, a group of tourists aboard the Ocean Breeze, a chartered sightseeing yacht off the coast of Exuma, Bahamas, got more than they bargained for. What was supposed to be a routine eco-tour through crystal-clear waters turned into a jaw-dropping, and nearly terrifying, encounter with what marine experts are now calling the largest shark ever recorded on camera. As the boat drifted near a shallow reef shelf, passengers noticed a shadow approaching from the deeper blue. Moments later, an enormous shark, estimated to be over 30 feet long, emerged near the surface, its massive dorsal fin towering above the waterline. At first, many assumed it was a basking shark or whale shark, but as the creature came closer, its features didn't match any known species. Several tourists captured high-resolution images and video, which quickly went viral. Marine biologists reviewing the footage say it could be evidence of a surviving megalodon, a species believed to have gone extinct over 3 million years ago. The shark swam under the boat without aggression and vanished into the deep. No one was hurt, but everyone aboard agrees. They witnessed something the world wasn't meant to see. The ocean still holds monsters. Number 10. Great White attacks boat. Off the coast of Mossel Bay, South Africa, in what is known as the Southern Cape, the waters are reputed to be among the most shark-infested in the world. So common are sharks here, including the almighty great white shark, that tourists are attracted to the area for boat tours, hoping to catch sight of the incredible fish. But these German visitors got a little more than just catching sight of a great white. The day had started out calm, with the group snapping photos of playful seals and enjoying the salty breeze. Suddenly, the mood shifted as a massive shadow glided beneath the boat, and the water erupted in a spray of foam and teeth. The tourists barely had time to react before the shark's jaws clamped down on the inflatable side, sending a jolt of panic through everyone on board. Cameras were dropped, and shouts filled the air as the boat rocked violently, the shark thrashing and refusing to let go. For a few tense moments, it seemed like the entire vessel might be pulled under, and the guide shouted instructions to stay away from the edge. The smell of rubber and salt water mixed in the air, and adrenaline took over as everyone scrambled to keep their balance. The shark's sheer power was on full display, and the tourists got a front row seat to just how quickly things can go from peaceful to terrifying in these waters. The great white tears a hole in the rubber immediately, appearing from nowhere and using its 12-foot-long body to tear at the boat, causing the men aboard to get a little nervous, no doubt. The South African tour operator decided the best move was to fire up the motor and beat a hasty retreat before the shark sank the boat, probably having mistaken it for a whale carcass to scavenge upon. It might have been a much worse situation if one of the men had fallen into the water and this hungry shark's mouth. Number 9. Octopus. In the waters around Primorsky Krai in the far east of Russia, a diver found himself in a tangle with a huge purple octopus. At first, it seems like a somewhat friendly greeting, but the octopus is one smart animal and seems to know just how to put this diver in his place. It's all fun and games, and then the octopus uses one of its tentacles to pull out the diver's breathing equipment, while at the same time gripping him around the neck, which seems to put the diver in a panic. The water is cold and visibility is low, making the whole encounter feel even more surreal. The octopus's skin shifts colors, flashing from deep purple to mottled brown as it tightens its grip, almost as if it's showing off its mood. The diver tries to stay calm, remembering that panicking underwater is never a good idea, but it's hard when you're being mugged by a creature with 8 arms and a brain to match. For a moment, the octopus wraps itself around the diver's camera, its suckers leaving little round marks on the lens. The diver can feel the strength in each tentacle, and it's clear this isn't just a playful tug of war. Every time he manages to peel off one arm, another seems to latch on somewhere else, making it a real underwater wrestling match. The octopus even tries to wedge itself between the diver and his gear, determined to win this battle of wills. He uses his spare arm to peel off the sucking tentacles, but with a camera in his left hand, it's 1 versus 8 in this arm wrestle. And the octopus seems to want to relieve him of his expensive photographic equipment, perhaps with the idea of selling it on eBay later like any other mugger. The diver does what he can to keep hold of his gear, but this octopus has made up his mind. That camera is his for keeps. Number 8. Great White Surprises Surfer. Carolina surfer David Woodward decided to head out for a surf with his new GoPro attached back in April of 2017. The surf was small that day, and Woodward was pretty much all alone in the water, or so he thought. The ocean was glassy and calm, with only the sound of his board slicing through the water and the occasional call of a distant gull. Suddenly, a flash of movement beneath the surface caught his eye, and his heart skipped a beat as the unmistakable silhouette of a shark appeared in the face of the wave. For a split second, Woodward froze, adrenaline surging as he realized just how close he was to one of the ocean's top predators. The GoPro footage shows the shark's sleek body gliding effortlessly, its dorsal fin cutting through the water like a knife. Even though it was a juvenile, the power and presence of the animal was undeniable, and Woodward knew he had to keep his cool. He kept his movements smooth and steady, not wanting to attract any more attention. As we can see in the video, he paddles out to meet the waves, and then turning we can see an ominous and familiar shape lurking in the onrushing wave. It's a juvenile great white shark, and a juvenile great white is not like a puppy dog. These things can still cause massive damage. Experienced surfer Woodward says he's seen plenty of young great whites out in the water, so he wasn't too disturbed. But nonetheless, the experienced surfer decided to make his way out of the shark's neighborhood as quickly as possible. Usually, young great whites are looking around for Stingray's tweet. Not surfers, but this one seemed to have drawn in close enough to Woodward to be a threat, and there was not much else he could do other than paddle fast and hope he didn't catch a bite. A close call. Number 7. Lionfish. Getting up close and personal with lionfish is all part of this diver's job. As we said earlier, these spiny creatures are certainly beautiful to look at, but one touch from those nasty spines can result in serious pain. The venom isn't lethal, but it causes enough pain that you might wish it were. The diver moves slowly and deliberately, knowing that one wrong move could mean hours of agony. Sometimes, the lionfish seem almost curious, fanning out their ornate fins and hovering just out of reach, as if daring the diver to come closer. The water is so clear that every stripe and spine is visible, making the fish look even more exotic and out of place. Occasionally, the diver will spot a whole cluster of lionfish hiding in a crevice, their spines bristling like underwater porcupines. It's a strange mix of beauty and danger, and the diver has to stay focused, using special tools to safely remove the invaders. Even with gloves and gear, there's always a risk, and every diver has a story about a close call with those venomous spines. Lionfish were first sighted here in the 1980s, north of Miami, and since then their numbers have increased enormously. Normally, nature finds a way to balance out predator and prey, but lionfish do not really have any natural predators in the waters here. And so this combined with their nasty body armor means that they have quickly become a threat to all the other marine life they live with. Researchers are doing all they can to learn as much as possible about these fish, so that they can figure out how to try and restore the natural order in the seas here. Until then, divers are going to get a little too close for comfort to these venomous little fish. Number 6. Pearl attacked by manatee. You might think the manatee was a kind of sweet-natured, bumbling, cute sea mammal that sings a song so sweet that they are believed to be the foundation of the mermaid myth, as sailors thought they were seeing beautiful fish women on the rocks singing to them while combing their hair. Well, you'd be pretty much accurate in that assumption, not that you'd guess this from the reaction of Caroline Winch of Florida, who went for a swim with the friendly herbivores who are kind of like the cows of the sea. As far as you can tell from her, it might as well have been a saltwater crocodile in there. The moment a manatee's whiskered snout broke the surface near her, Caroline let out a shriek that echoed across the water, startling even the birds nearby. Her friends tried to reassure her, but she was already halfway to shore, convinced she was about to become a headline in the local news. The manatee, meanwhile, just floated there, munching on some seagrass and looking as harmless as a floating pillow. Caroline's panic only grew when the gentle giant rolled over, exposing its massive, paddle-shaped tail, which she was sure was a prehistoric fin. Even the tour guide couldn't help but laugh as Caroline splashed away, arms flailing, while the manatee watched with what looked like mild confusion. Later, she admitted she'd never seen a creature so big up close, and her imagination just ran wild. Her friends will probably never let her live it down, and the manatee probably went back to its lunch, completely unfazed. In fact, Caroline was convinced that manatees were a shark's cousin, as she put it, and she began to run, thinking of how she would never get to say goodbye to her mom, having been mauled to death by a seaweed-eating, chubby mermaid cow thing. One tip for Caroline's friends and family: never take her to a petting zoo unless you want to see another life-or-death escape like this one. Number 5. Crocodile attacks drone. Off the coast of Groot, Inland Australia, local man Quentin Roper decided to take his new drone out for a spin back in February of this year. Remember that whole pre-lockdown world? No, me neither. Things were looking pretty beautiful out that day, and a real sense of calm was in the air, only he notices a massive saltwater crocodile bathing right nearby. The water was so still that the croc looked almost like a floating log, barely making a ripple as it soaked up the sun. Roper couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and nerves as he guided the drone lower, the propellers buzzing just above the water's surface. The crocodile's eyes tracked the drone with eerie precision, and for a moment, it seemed like a standoff between ancient predator and modern technology. Suddenly, the croc lunged, its jaws snapping shut with a sound that even the drone's mic picked up, a bone-chilling reminder of just how powerful these animals are. The footage captured the croc's teeth glinting in the sunlight, and you can almost feel the adrenaline spike through Roper as he realized how close he'd come to losing his new gadget. Even from the safety of the boat, the whole encounter felt way too close for comfort. It's not every day you see a crocodile leap for the sky, and Roper knew he'd just witnessed something wild. Unable to resist the opportunity for a closer look, Roper flew his drone down to inspect the crocodile, and he was surprised to see the giant reptile leap from the water and attempt to snatch the drone from the air as it flew past. The croc didn't quite manage to take it down, but the glancing blow damaged the drone, and Roper knew he had just caught some amazing footage, so he brought the drone back to the boat for a crash landing, managing to avoid losing it in the sea. The croc kept hanging around the boat for a while after, maybe waiting to see how he looked on camera doing his thing being to leap into the air with jaws of death, snapping shut around anything that comes too close. Number 4. Shark diving. Shark diving is an adrenaline-filled, but controversial hobby where people suit up and get into the water with some seriously huge sharks, including the tiger, mako, lemon, and great white sharks. These divers use bait to attract sharks and then head into the water to swim with them. Some shark experts say that teaching sharks to associate food with humans disrupts their natural hunting, and could also be dangerous for human beings. The thrill of being face-to-face with a massive predator is hard to describe. Your heart pounds as a shadowy shape emerges from the blue, circling closer. Sometimes, the sharks come so near that you can see the scars and scratches on their skin, evidence of their own wild lives. The divers keep their eyes on the shark's body language, watching for quick movements or sudden changes in direction that might signal agitation. There's a strange mix of awe and fear as a great white glides past, its black eyes fixed on you for a moment before it disappears into the depths. Underwater, everything feels amplified. The rush of bubbles, the flick of a tail, the sudden silence when a shark passes overhead. Even the most experienced divers admit to moments of panic when a shark comes in for a closer look. The line between curiosity and aggression can be razor thin, and everyone knows that one wrong move could change everything in an instant. But the shark divers say they are conservationists, trying to rehabilitate the bad reputation sharks have among humans in many places. However, although it's clear that sharks are not simply cold-hearted killing machines, they do occasionally become curious about these strange humans swimming among them. And a nudge can lead to two nudges, which can sometimes turn into a bite or even a full-on attack. As we can see from this man's heavily scarred legs, when these sharks decide to bite, they are not fooling around. And he can count himself lucky, though sharp teeth didn't hit anything vital. Number 3. Stingray. Stingrays are usually pretty peaceful creatures unless you accidentally step on one, when these relatives of the sharks will defend themselves by swishing the barb of their tail into whatever is hurting it, which is enough to cause a lot of pain. Or, as in the case of famous nature documentary maker Steve Irwin, a freak hit on the chest can actually be fatal. Irwin's death was so unusual, it was only the second recorded stingray fatality in Australia since the Second World War. Despite their reputation, most encounters with stingrays are calm and even magical, with divers often able to swim alongside them as they glide gracefully over the sand. In places like Stingray City in the Cayman Islands, rays are so used to humans that they'll swim right up for a gentle touch or a snack of squid. Still, every diver is taught to do the stingray shuffle, sliding their feet along the bottom to avoid stepping on a hidden ray. The water is usually shallow and clear, but rays can bury themselves almost completely, making them hard to spot. Some divers even describe the sensation of a stingray brushing past as like velvet gliding over your skin. But no matter how friendly they seem, everyone knows to respect the business end of that tale. The stories of rare but serious injuries are always in the back of your mind. However, since then, another man, aquarium diver Philip Chan of Singapore, was killed in a manner similar to Irwin while he was diving and cleaning out the aquarium stingray tank. So these people diving with stingrays near the Cayman Islands were not doing so completely risk-free, even if an angry stingray is seriously rare. And the stingray doesn't only have its barbed tail as a weapon, but it also has a set of teeth, as this woman discovered when one of the rays gave her a bite which drew blood. Lucky for her, it was only a bite and not a strike with the tail. Number 2. Box jellyfish. Sail Rock in Thailand is considered one of the best places for diving in the Gulf of Thailand, and it reaches 50 feet above the water, while 150 feet of rock lies below the surface. This provides for a fascinating ecosystem, but sometimes it also includes some pretty dangerous creatures. One of those is the box jellyfish, so-called for the cube shape of their medusa. Some species of box jellyfish produce incredibly potent venom, which can certainly be fatal to humans. The water here is so clear that you can see schools of fish darting around the coral, but that also means you can spot the ghostly outlines of jellyfish drifting by. Local dive guides often carry bottles of vinegar, just in case someone gets stung, since it's the best first aid for box jellyfish venom. The divers in this video are extra cautious, scanning the water constantly for any sign of those nearly invisible tentacles. At one point, a jellyfish glides right past the camera, its tentacles trailing like delicate ribbons, and everyone holds their breath. The sunlight filtering through the water makes the jellyfish look almost beautiful, but the danger is very real. Even experienced divers admit that seeing a box jellyfish up close is enough to make your heart race. As we can see in this video, one of the divers is warning the other about this floating death by bleeding like a goat. But the other diver seems pretty relaxed, perhaps unaware of just how nasty those tentacles can be. Or maybe he's confident enough as a diver that he's sure he knows how to avoid them. Either way, this transparent invertebrate is one of the last things you'd hope to meet while out diving. And this guy was more than fortunate not to have made contact with any of those terrifying tentacles. Number 1. Electric eels. Steve Baxhall, like the other famous naturalist Steve, Australia's Steve Irwin, loves to get up close with some of nature's most dangerous creatures. In this video, the animal-crazy Brit decides he wants to take a dip in these Amazonian waters which are filled with stingrays, caimans, and the deadly creature he's really looking for, the electric eel. Electric eels live in the rivers of the Amazon and can produce an electrical charge with their bodies that can reach up to 600 volts and is enough to stop the heart of a horse. Before even spotting an eel, Steve has to keep an eye out for the lurking caimans, which sometimes slip through the murky water almost completely unseen. The tension builds as he wades deeper, knowing that at any moment, a jolt from an electric eel could send him reeling. The locals warn him to move slowly and avoid sudden splashes, since the eels are sensitive to vibrations and can strike if startled. Steve, ever the thrill-seeker, jokes about his hair standing on end if he gets zapped, but you can tell he's only half kidding. The water is thick with suspense, and every shadow could be a potential shock. At one point, a school of small fish darts past his legs, making him jump and laugh nervously. Even the camera crew seems on edge, whispering to each other as they try to keep up with Steve's fearless approach. Their name is misleading as it is not in fact an eel, but a kind of knifefish which grows to around 7 feet in length. They have special organs in their bodies which work something like a battery and allow the electric eel to produce electrical charges which they use both for sensing the environment and also for stunning and killing. Baxhall's camera actually attracts the eels with its own electrical field, and soon several of these strange creatures are swimming up to him. But all it would take is one to hit him with a charge and things could be pretty rough for Steve. That's all the close calls we've got for you in this video. Have you ever had a scary experience in the water? Would you ever dive shirtless into a pool full of electric eels? or pick up a super venomous sea snake just for kicks? Share your stories in the comments below. And don't forget to check out the other awesome videos popping up on your screen right now. See you next time.